This video is going to be a 2024 NBA mock draft pre-March Madness. For the draft order in this video, I base it on the NBA standings as of March 11th, so I'm sure that the positioning will change, but this is just kind of what I threw together for the standings at this time. My selections were based partially on team need, but also based on my big board. And because of that, I did include my big board rankings for each prospect. But with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's go ahead and get into the first pick. With the number one pick, the Detroit Pistons select Zachary Risacher. Risacher is a 6'10 wing out of France. He is my number one overall player. I think whenever you have a wing who's able to dribble, pass, and shoot, as well as being an impactful defender, I think it's hard to pass on a player like that this high up in the draft. And without this draft having clear-cut potential superstars, I think Risacher is the closest we get, and that's why he's my number one player. With the second pick, the Washington Wizards select Alex Sarr. The 7'1" big man from France really has all the physical tools you'd want for a starting caliber big man in the NBA. He's super long, super athletic. Some people really believe in his potential to find that jump shot. I do not have very much confidence in that, but if he's going to be willing to take them, even if he's shooting about 35% or so, I think he's going to be a real impactful player and definitely worth taking a chance on at number 2. With the third pick, the Spurs select Cody Williams. I think Cody Williams has great positional size for playing a small forward or even a shooting guard at the next level. His offensive upside, I think, is near the top of this draft. I could see him becoming a first or second scoring option at the next level. He does really need to fill out, kind of improve his strength at the next level, but that's something that I think is definitely doable for him. With the number 4 pick, the Charlotte Hornets select Ron Holland. I think Ron Holland has kind of been on a similar trajectory as Jonathan Kuminga was with the G League. I don't think he's been used right, and that's really shown in his productivity. Coming into this season, I felt like Ron Holland had a chance at number 1, and with that upside that we saw before the G League started this season, I still think he's worth taking a chance on with the top 5 pick and has the tools to be worth, taking that risk and letting him fill out into whatever he may become. I do get that the Hornets taking Holland may seem kind of repetitive after they just took Brandon Miller, but I think adding him onto the other wing for primarily defensive purposes would be very beneficial for Charlotte. With the 5th pick, I have the Portland Trail Blazers taking Reed Sheppard. This is a pick that I think is kind of more best player available than for fit. I would assume that the Blazers would be wanting to get a big man in the first round, but they have a later pick coming up, so I think that Reed Sheppard is really going to become an impactful player for almost any team who takes a chance on him. Both on offense and defense, I think he's going to be a plug-and-play type of player from the jump, and taking that type of upside regardless of who else you have on your team is always going to be a plus. With the 6th pick, I have the Memphis Grizzlies taking Stephon Castle. I do acknowledge that I'm higher on Castle than most people at this time, but I think that he's really shown quite a bit of flashes of becoming a very unique offensive player in the NBA. I have previously compared his offensive game somewhat to SGA. Obviously, he has quite a ways to go to get to that level, but I think pairing up that potential with the defensive instincts that he brings, along with his good positional size at 6'6", I think he's absolutely worth a top 5 pick, and if he falls to 6, I think this would be a real smart move for the Grizzlies to take a chance on him. With the 7th pick, I have the Spurs taking Nikola Topic. Topic has great positional size at 6'6" for a lead ball handling guard. I do think he is the best playmaking and facilitating guard in this class. A lot of people thought, that the Spurs would take a lead guard to pair with Wembanyama with their first pick. I expect them more so to try to make a trade or even get somebody off free agency for that. But if Topic did fall to their second pick at number 7, I would not be surprised, and I think that is the correct choice for them to make, just in case, the free agency or trade market for a point guard did not play out like they would expect. With the 8th pick, I have the Rockets taking Ja'Kobe Walter. Walter has shown real promising upside on the offensive end this year so far at Baylor. I think that he has all the physical tools to become a really impactful two-way player at the NBA level. I also felt like the Rockets recently have had the draft philosophy of taking the best player available, and I think Ja'Kobe Walter really fits what they want to do both offensively and defensively, and I think that this is just a great fit for them and another potential high-impact player that they've acquired through the draft. With the 9th pick, I have the Utah Jazz selecting Matas Buzelis. I think Buzelis has one of the highest offensive upsides in this class, and for the Jazz to select him to pair up in the forward position with Lauri Markkanen, I think that's an opportunity that they shouldn't and I doubt would pass on. I've been kind of back and forth with my feelings on Buzelis, but I do acknowledge, like I just said, that offensive upside. And I think, having a forward who's 6'10", who can run the court, dribble, pass, and shoot is a player that, 10 out of 10 teams would take a chance on. With the 10th pick, I have the Hawks taking Rob Dillingham. Dillingham pretty clearly does have, big time defensive struggles just in college, so that will probably only get worse in the NBA. But on the offensive end, he's one of the best in this class. The Hawks have kind of been in a weird situation with the potential of one of, if not both, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray being moved. Rob Dillingham as your up-and-coming lead guard, I think is a great position to be in. If things did work out, I think the best position for Rob is to be a sixth man coming off the bench in a similar way of Jamal Crawford. I think that offensive firepower is going to be impactful regardless of when he's in the game, and I think is a great pick for the Atlanta Hawks. With the 11th pick, I have the Thunder taking Dalton Knecht. Knecht, in my opinion, has been the best player in college basketball this season. I do think with him being a little older, he's going to be able to transition his game a little quicker than most prospects taken up to this point. And I think that's a great fit for the Thunder, especially whenever it comes to his ability to shoot the ball. He does a great job coming off of screens. I don't think that he would be able to really get into that starting lineup for the Thunder, but they do a great job of utilizing bench players, and I think he would fit in like a glove with them. With the 12th pick, I have the Bulls taking Tijon Salon. Salon is one of the rawer prospects that I have, especially in the lottery. But I do believe that his offensive flashes he's shown are really, deserving of being a lottery pick. He has great size, standing at 6'9", can really do a little bit of everything. I do think the most promising aspect of his game is his jump shooting, And, having a 6'9" power forward who can spread the court is absolutely something that the NBA is heading towards. So I think this is a great pickup for the Bulls, and hopefully he can help kind of get things straightened out in Chicago. With the 13th pick, I have the Blazers taking Tyler Smith. Smith is one of my favorite offensive forwards in this draft. I even think he could make a career for himself by just becoming a sort of connecting piece with his ability to find open teammates and keep the ball moving. A lot of people are pretty concerned with his defense. I think with him being so young and going straight from high school into Overtime Elite and then G League Ignite, I think that has really kind of set him behind with being a good defender and learning defensive systems. But I believe in his ability to kind of get that figured out as we go along his career. And I think he's definitely a good fit, especially for the Blazers to pair with Reed Sheppard coming out of this class. With the 14th pick, I have the Pelicans taking Donovan Clingan. Clingan is one of the better big men in this draft, both offensively and defensively. I think, it's not going to be a day one impact that he's able to bring, but I could see it being, pretty similar to how Walker Kessler was with the Jazz his rookie year. Definitely an impact player. I could see him, kind of becoming a career first big man off the bench. He's not super switchable, but I do think he does a great job hedging screens. His big defensive factor is obviously his rim protection with him standing at 7'2", but I think he's definitely a high impact player regardless of if he doesn't match, the perfect prospect in most drafts. With the 15th pick, I have the Heat taking Ryan Dunn. I think Ryan Dunn would fit in super well into Heat culture. I think the argument could be made that he's the best defender in this draft class. In my opinion, I would probably say he is. The only reason he fell to 15 is because he really doesn't have much to offer on offense other than being a play finisher and possibly a cutter at the next level. But I think on the defensive end, he will be able to guard probably 2 through 4s. And I really see a lot of Andre Roberson or Herb Jones to his game. And, both of those players have proved that they're very valuable pieces to have on a continuing roster. At number 16, I have the Raptors taking Isaiah Collier. Collier had a really slow start to this season, coming in as one of the top prospects in college basketball. He does have undeniable offensive upside at the NBA level, but I've really had questions throughout the year about overall basketball IQ and transitioning him into a winning player at the next level. But like I said, that offensive upside, it's definitely worth taking a risk on, and he does have good physical tools to remain somewhat physically dominant once he's able to put it all together at the next level. At number 17, I have the 76ers taking Yves Missi. Missi is probably my biggest riser of this draft class. He has undeniable potential, primarily due to his athleticism and length. I don't think there's a ton that he's going to be able to do to really expand his game too much at the next level, but he is a top-tier lob threat, a great inside defender, and if he did fall this low to the Sixers, I think he'd be an awesome backup big for them to have. I would not be surprised at all if by the time we made it to the draft, I had Missi as a projected lottery pick, but for the time being, I'm comfortable leaving him here at 17. With the 18th pick, I have the Knicks taking Jared McCain. McCain is one of the best shooting guards in all of college basketball. I've been really impressed with his play as of late at Duke. He's really turned it on pretty consistently as the season has progressed. I don't think he really has any, standout defensive aspects to his game, but I do think he's a good option for a backup guard for the Knicks to come into the game whenever Jalen Brunson is out. I even think he's going to have a chance to play a little bit of an off-ball role for, as I mentioned, how good of a jump shooter he is. At number 19, I have the Magic taking Hunter Sallis. Hunter Sallis has really improved this season after transferring to Wake Forest. He's been one of my favorite guards to watch in college basketball. He's an offensive juggernaut at Wake Forest, and obviously that's going to, take a step back at the next level. But I think the Magic are in a great position in terms of young talent that they have. And I think bringing in an offensive-minded point guard would be really beneficial for him for those times whenever, Jalen Suggs and Markelle Fultz are not giving you the offensive firepower that you would like to have. I just think it's an interesting look for the Magic and think that this would be a very good pick for them to make if he's available at this pick. With the 20th pick, I have the Hawks taking Kyle Filipowski. I think Flip is probably one of the more boring prospects to go in the first round here. I don't think he has anything with his game that really jumps out, but I do think that he is the best big prospect left available. And with the Hawks already taking one guard in the lottery, I think Filipowski makes a lot of sense here and could be beneficial, especially if he were to be paired up with Trae Young. With the 21st pick, I have the Knicks taking Johnny Furphy. I think that this is a pretty big fit selection for the Knicks. It seems like they're pretty happy with how their roster is constructed at the moment. So I think taking Furphy here would make a lot of sense just to have, a spot player, not necessarily going to get to see the court every game, but if you need catch and shoot out there, I think he would be a great option to be that, especially for the Knicks. With the 22nd pick, I have the Suns taking Khalil Ware. My biggest concern with Ware is his motor. Sometimes he does seem to be disengaged, but I think his upside and potential of what he could become in the NBA fits the Phoenix Suns very well, probably quite a bit better than how Nurkic currently is for them. I think Ware is a very big, long, and athletic big man. As you can see, he's able to put the ball in the court a little bit, but I'm expecting him to become more of just a play finisher at the next level. I could see it being a similar situation with the Mavericks this year. I have been a big fan of Khalil Ware since he was in high school, but I think that he is a good player to take a chance on, especially if you need another big man. With the 23rd pick, I have the Pelicans taking Trey Alexander. I think that the Pelicans could really use another offensive-minded guard with how their team is constructed. I think Trey Alexander is probably the best available player to help out with that at the moment. I could really see him coming in year one and being an impactful player, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. I've liked him for quite a while and think that he really fits well with the Pelicans system, especially if he's out there at the same time as Brandon Ingram. With the 24th pick, I have the Cavs taking Kevin McCullar Jr. McCullar is not a perfect prospect as he's quite a bit older than the majority of my first round selections, and he does have definitely some pretty big problems on defense. But I believe that the Cavs, more than anything, are needing an offensive-minded wing player, and I think McCullar could be one of their better options with this pick. It's really kind of up in the air what the Cavs team is going to look like next year, But regardless of if they're able to keep Donovan Mitchell or not, I think McCullough fits this need very well, as they already have a handful of defensive-minded wings and could use a little bit of help on the offensive side, whether that's scoring or just keeping the ball moving, which I think McCullough does a good job of. With the 25th pick, I have the Bucks taking Harrison Ingram. I would expect the Bucks to try to make a win now selection with this pick, and I think that Harrison Ingram really fits that mold for what they'd like to bring in. I see him as a decently high-level 3-and-D type of player, but with the Bucks, they're going to use the players they take one way or another. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do to fit players around Giannis, but I think Ingram makes adjustments on the fly really well in all 3 of his seasons at North Carolina, and I think that could translate really well and be really beneficial for the Bucks. With the 26th pick, I have the Wizards selecting Keyshawn George. George, I think, is still really, really raw as a prospect, but it's easy to see why teams would consider taking him with his ability to shoot the ball, and he's standing at 6'8" as a freshman. So he could go higher than this depending on what teams are wanting, this type of player to try to develop down the road. But if he were to make it to pick 26th, I think that he's a great fit for the rebuild going on in Washington and could really potentially help them push this further along down the road, more so than right now after this draft. With the 27th pick, I have the Timberwolves taking Oso Ighodaro. Oso is just a blast to watch. He's high flying. He does good at attacking off the dribble for a guy his size. He really, just generally speaking, does not shoot jump shots. But I do think the things he does at Marquette are going to translate well into the NBA. And he could be a pretty impactful player on both ends of the court, really from the jump. With the 28th pick, I have the Nuggets taking Jamal Shead. For my money, Shead is the best overall point guard in college basketball this season. He can score the ball. One of the things that impresses me the most about him is his ability to drive and kick. He does this all the time for Houston, and it's super effective. I think that Shead would make an awesome backup point guard for the Nuggets, and I think possibly the biggest thing for Denver is that he would give him another, I think, high-level point-of-attack defender on the perimeter, which, a lot of times they've been having Aaron Gordon play that position for them. And if they were able to keep him on the inside a little bit more with help of a good perimeter defender, I think that would be super beneficial for Denver. With the 29th pick, I have the Jazz selecting Dylan Jones. Dylan Jones does play at a mid-major in Weber State, but with how productive he's been, I think that his skill is pretty unquestionable. My big concern is that he does only stand 6'6", but that kind of plays into why I have the Jazz selecting him, because I feel like they may be a unique position with the bigs that they currently have and are planning to keep on their team. I think sliding him right in there next to him at either a 3 or a 4 could be really beneficial. And I'm just hoping that Dylan Jones is seen for the player that I think he is and not, knocked for just playing at a smaller school. At the 30th and final pick, I have the Boston Celtics taking Zach Edey. Edey, I'm sure we're all aware, is just a gigantic monster in the college game. I think Boston is in as good of a position as anybody to take a risk on this guy, even if he is just kind of a serviceable spot minutes backup big. I think being that big with the touch that he has can be beneficial, especially for a team that's designed as well as the Boston Celtics are. Well, that's going to wrap up the first round of my 2024 NBA mock draft. As I mentioned at the start of this video, these rankings and draft projections are definitely going to be changing as we get closer to the draft, so be sure to check back in for any updates. Be sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. But this is Jace. Thanks for watching Plus Basketball.